you're just this kick-ass, all-around amazing guy. So just kind of tell us about Shane. I know about you, but the world needs to know about you.
Well, that's it. That's it in a nutshell, really. That's all. That's it. Show's over. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for showing up, everybody. Shane Eastman.
No, it really has been an uphill battle just from the beginning.
Welcome to the Knight's Path podcast. Today I have Shane Eastman. So there's Eastwood Clint and there's Eastman Shane. So Shane is, we haven't known each other long, but he's become a fast and quick buddy of mine, and I love having him on the show. So Shane, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a real honor to qualify to even make the cut for your show, for sure. Being what your mission is, I love what you're doing, and we need more men in this world, and it's awesome to have you heading that up. So it's great to be a part of that.
Thanks, brother. And as y'all can probably hear, I got the windows open in my studio. I got chickens, and you're going to hear animals, but that's part of the gig, man. When you're at the Kelly Ranch and you're part of the podcast, the Knight's Path podcast, but. Hey, Shane, you and I have gotten to know each other. You and I just spent some time at a seminar, which was, I guess the best way to put it was a self-improvement insight, seminar for entrepreneurs that want to kind of go to that next level. And I certainly want us to get to the point where we talk about all the things you're doing, and I can put all the hyperlinks and stuff in the description in your podcast info in there. But I know that you work out. I know you've got some mental discipline, and I know you got some spirituality going. And those are all things that, as far as the Knight's Path, to be the best version of a man, I certainly want to get into as far as you're concerned. But before that, let's just kind of high level talk about Shane Eastman and some of the things I know. So, I mean, I knew you were you told me that you were a high risk birth, and then you had some physical ailments that you had to overcome as a young man. And then you got into the military. You're a paramedic, like 2 campaigns over in the Middle East, doing crazy stuff. And when you're a paramedic over there, the lines are blurred between doctor and medic, and just did some amazing shit over there. You've flipped houses. You're a friggin' pilot. You're an entrepreneur. You're just this kick-ass, all-around amazing guy. So just kind of tell us about Shane. I know about you, but the world needs to know about you.
Well, that's it. That's it in a nutshell, really. That's all. That's it. Show's over. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for showing up, everybody. Shane Eastman.
No, it really has been an uphill battle just from the beginning. I was a high risk birth. My mom was 42 when she had me, and of course, at the time, it was something the doctor was concerned about. She even had to move to have me delivered, and so that was a sacrifice there. And then we ended up figuring out later on, I had some eye issues as a kid. I had my feet were like inward and so forth, so I had to go through like physical therapy to learn how to walk properly. And then when I got into school, or as I started school, I learned over time that I not had one, but I had 2 learning disabilities. I had dyslexia as a younger child. And then when I was in college, I was diagnosed with what they call dysgraphia, which is a little less known, which is the difficulty of getting the written word into your mind, and the vice versa, also getting your thoughts down onto paper. Where most people will read a string of words and like just formulate a sentence and boom, pop, it's in your mind. I literally had to read one word at a time, figure out what that word meant, and then have to remember each one of those words one at a time, and then put them together as a sentence. So it's very labor intensive. Once it was figured out, of course, my mom, she you know, we struggle. I grew up in poverty. There's no qualms about it. You know, it's good for some, better for others. But I learned a lot from that. But the one thing about my mom is she would never allow us to use anything as a crutch. You know, it's like, hey, this is what you were dealt. You need to maximize your situation and learn how to work with it. But no, you're not going to use it as a crutch or not as an excuse not to perform or to pursue what it is you need to do. And um, so that's how I got over the dyslexia. I actually literally outgrew it. I can't remember I think I was 9 when I was pretty much past it. I was able to get past that, but I still had the dysgraphia. I just thought I had a hard time reading. But it turns out there was a learning disability associated with that. And so then when I was diagnosed with the dysgraphia, I said, okay, fine, I have that. What's the best way for me to work with this? What can I do to literally outgrow this too? Because I'm not gonna let this hold me back either. And pretty much he said that he said the neurons within your brain are very plastic, and yours don't happen to be connected in the right way for that to work. And the only way to get around that is to basically keep doing it, practicing it, read stuff you absolutely love that makes the struggle worthwhile. And your neurons will literally form new paths and connect new paths to allow you to be able to read like everyone else. And today, I am in that position. I can read a book. Because before I would read a page and it would put me to sleep because I was so exhausted. Now I can read 20, 30 pages of technical documents with no trouble at all. It still sucks, but I can do it.
Technical documents will put anybody to sleep.
Right? Yeah, right. So, but yeah, so there's that, and then I started going to school, and of course that didn't work out so well because of what we just discussed. High school was fairly easy for me. I got excellent grades, went to Bentley, and I was a little out of my element because of the amount of reading that was required, outside, because I was a great auditory learner. I mean, if you told me something orally, I would absorb it, and it was, steel trap. But, for me to have to read it and learn it on my own, I did not know how to do that then. Right. So I joined the Air Force at the time, and it really ended up, Matt, being the best opportunity for me, especially. And, like so many people, I actually went to the military to learn how to learn. Okay. And just the way the repetition and the being forced to, hey, you need to read this. You hear it auditorily, but then you had to go back and actually read the technical stuff too, because of the field that I was in originally. And then, so I learned how to learn, got past it and so forth. And I had a interesting career. I did 4 years in special weapons, separated for a year and a half, and 9/11 happened. And so I wanted to come back in, but I couldn't go back into that particular job, frankly, because they flat out told me, I was like, look, we just don't trust you because you were gone for a year and a half because of the clearances I had before. It's like, okay, fine. So I went to go and I was supposed to be a crew chief on heavies, and I showed up at MEPS. I quit a federal job, showed up at MEPS to, sign in, like, who are you and why are you here? And I'm like, excuse me, I just quit a federal job to be here. And turns out somebody didn't process the paper on Thursday. They went on leave on Friday. And so when I got there on Monday, no one knew who I was. And so long story short, I said, well, you're going to get me a job or there's going to be issues, of course, at the time, without going on too crazy without the wheels falling off the wagon. My ex-wife, her father was a colonel who I happen to love very much, a retired colonel in the Air Force, and he had still a lot of connections. And he said, like, look, my son-in-law's down there, and you are going to get him a job. And I was like, well, okay. So they said, well, your two choices are, you could be a air refueler, and I said, okay, that's cool. And then the other option was to become a medical technician.
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, tell me about the air refueler. What bases can I go to? Well, no, I guess it wasn't air refueler because I would have definitely taken that. That's a cool job. But no, it was like a DC-10 engine mechanic, which is basically for the air refuelers. And they said, oh, Tinker or Tyndall. And I'm like, well, what about overseas? They no, like Tinker or Tyndall. Those are your choices. I'm
Where are
like,
those?
Oklahoma or Florida.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm like, well, okay, tell me about this medical thing. Because anytime I looked over a list of jobs in the military, you get to medical, you skip down to go to electrical, mechanical, and all the cool stuff. It's like I never
Right.
had any intention of becoming medical. And so, long story short, I ended up in San Antonio going to med school. You know, actually, no, up at Shepherd again, and then became a med tech and just kept getting more training, and ended up in Iraq and well, did some time in Germany, did support and for Iraq and Afghanistan a couple times, and basically, yeah, as you stated, when you're in the desert, working in a hospital that has the highest acuity in the world, meaning the level of injuries to the amount of volume that you have, that's called acuity. And when you have the highest acuity in the world and you're doing it intense, level 1 trauma care to include plastic surgery and neurosurgery. I mean, these doctors were phenomenal. And I'll get into that one or two of those stories really quick in a little bit. But yeah, like you said, scope of practice does get blurred a little bit. Paramedics and medical technicians and so forth aren't supposed to be installing chest tubes. They're not supposed to be starting central lines and so forth. And well, I was, we all did, if the doctors would train you and because they knew that there's only 3 or 4 of them that can do it. And so when you have 25 patients at once, that basically mass cal, it's 25 patients within an hour. And I'll never forget this date, July 7th of 2007. We had literally 2 mass cals in one day, an hour and a half apart from each other. In the break, had a very traumatic event in the middle of it where a 4-year-old girl was shot in the back. Her liver was exposed, and it wasn't she wasn't just a casualty. She was the target as a punishment. And so needless to say, that affected me over time. And I can talk about it now, but that destroyed me for years.
I bet.
Being and dealing with that and, the story behind it. Anyway, that was in the middle of it. And then we had another big, huge mass cow. And at one point, I have a couple of accommodations for particularly that day. Because it's like doctor looked at you, it's like, look, this is your patient, keep him alive. So cutting off arms, intubating, the whole 9 yards, and get him to CT, and then you get him to race him to CT, and so that way they can go to the OR right after that. And but yeah, the level of doctors and stuff that were there were just phenomenal. I mean, that's shout out to them. We had one of the best neurosurgeons anyone could ever ask to work with. He would do amazing things like again, we're in a tent.
Right.
And we had a plastic surgeon. His talent was to such a level that we had one guy. I mean, a lot of people know that medical folks, we give people nicknames to help us cope, to deal with a certain issue. And there's one guy who literally came in, his complete face was blown off. There was no structure whatsoever. Couldn't find his eyes, couldn't find his nose. And in order to intubate him, one of the doctors that was actually on him, phenomenal, I had to push on his stomach slowly so that way he could follow the air bubbles down to get the tube into his trach.
Wow.
And got it. And then sure enough, he was able to blow it up or whatever. And
What was his nickname?
Hamburger Face.
Yeah.
And so a few hours goes by, and I take a break, grab a soda, and I just take a walk. I walk down to the ICU. I'm like, where's patient X? And they're like, oh, he's right there. And I was looking at him like, no way. No way, that's patient X. The plastic surgery, Matt, was so phenomenal, and he did it so quickly that complete faith. This guy was going to have minimal scarring.
Whoa.
I mean, he's going to have scarring. I mean, he's going to be scarred for life, but it's like, not like you look at him and it hurts to look at.
Right.
It's like, that is phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So anyway.
That's amazing. So Shane, dude, so I want to, so like, it's crazy that you became this phenomenal paramedic just kind of out of, well, hey, I quit a friggin' job. You better find me something. And you got two choices. And one is I can stay in Florida or Oklahoma, or I can go, have a positive impact over there and help my fellows. So that's amazing. But before that, tell me a little bit about special weapons, and then what crew chief on heavies means, and then for some folks, explain what MEPS is. So first, let's go with special weapons before you got out for a little bit.
Okay, special weapons is basically nuclear weapons, 2W2. Yeah, so basically I worked on the business end of ICBMs.
And you had to have all kinds of top crazy secret clearances and stuff like that, right? So
yeah. So beyond that, that's about all I can talk about here.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, let's not get us in trouble, man. But what's crew chief on heavies? What's heavies?
So a crew chief is a person who's actually his sole job. He has a relationship with a pilot because his whole job is to make sure the maintenance on that aircraft from tip to fin are basically 100%. And
is that like C-130s, gunships, and stuff like that, or
C-130s, C-5, C-17s, and so all the big cargo aircrafts. I would have ended up being a crew chief on C-17s, from what I understand, but which is a phenomenal aircraft. And then he manages like load masters and all that. So it's a very big and awesome, responsible job for someone to have, and so forth.
And then they screwed that up, and then you had two choices to become. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So MAPS is Military Entry Personnel Services, I think is what it stands for.
Okay. Sweet.
We just know them as the people that screw things up.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
They're responsible for the physicals, testing, and all that. I mean, it is a big job. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of people, and things happen. Stuff happens. But most times it works out pretty good. But for me, it is just one of those stories. I'm one of those nightmare stories that happens, and so yeah, they're responsible for assigning people to their jobs, their careers that they're supposed to be in, and they usually do a really good job at matching people up with the right position. Considering.
Yeah. But so now you live up in the Northeast, right? Do you want to say what state you live in?
Yeah, I live in Massachusetts.
Okay, so Shane's northeastern Mass. He's in the northeast part of the country, Massachusetts. So how long were you out of the military when you started like getting interested in flipping houses? Because I know you've done that. You've had some success there. You've had entrepreneurial blood in you for a while. We cannot miss out on your friggin' crystal ball vision in fucking HEB and where you were way ahead of the friggin' game. I gotta get that on here because holy shit, dude. Like Shane's way ahead of the friggin' game. This is phenomenal. But anyway, let's talk about flipping houses and then kind of where you are now because dude, I love being your pal and I love having you as an entrepreneurial buddy because you and I had a conversation not long ago where you're like, dude, by fall, winter of this year, I'll be able to do this full time, which is fucking badass, dude. That is awesome, man. You're gonna be working for yourself, providing for your wife and your two daughters, and just kicking ass and taking names. And you're a fantastic human being. You'll take the shirt off your own back and give it to somebody. So,
Yep.
dude, you're fucking amazing, man. Let's talk about flipping houses and kind of where you are now, current state entrepreneurial.
So sure. Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur even when I was in the military. I got the bug injected into me literally just before I processed into MEPS the very first time. So my eyes are open to what it is to be an entrepreneur in the form of multi-level marketing. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's still a great learning opportunity. So my eyes are open with that. But I've always was interested in form of real estate just because of coming from a family of builders. I had the knowledge and the know-how in that respect. As my wife and I got out of the military, we joined a club, real estate investment club there in San Antonio.
Okay.
Shout out to Lifestyles Unlimited. They have a fantastic program, which introduced us into single family and then, of course, the multifamily investing. We bought four properties, fixed them up, held on to them for a year and a day. And depending on the timing of tenants moving out or whatever, as soon as they move out, I'd clean it up and then sell it for a decent profit and take that money to do something else that can catapult it into, living or whatever. Yeah, real estate is one of those things that will never, ever go away. And so, I mean, it might drop down. Like right now, we're at the peak of the market. So I'm pumping the brakes on buying any more. But when this bubble pops, I'll be ready to start scooping up a whole bunch and maximizing that moment. Yeah, I love real estate. It's something that will always be a part of my portfolio. I currently don't have anything in my portfolio. In fact, at the moment, I literally just sold my house at the peak of the market because, hey, we're at the peak of the market. It's a great opportunity to sell. So I'm renting a buddy's house at the moment just for the sake of waiting for material costs to come down.
Yeah.
And
COVID.
yeah, so waiting for material costs to come down in the housing market to drop down to normal, and then we'll buy again and whatever. But so yeah, and then alluding to your HEB story, when we first separated, Amanda and I actually, I was still in, and my wife had separated because we met in the Air Force. She was a nurse.
What year is this?
What's that?
What year is this?
That was back in 2008 when I was separating.
So this is important, people. 2008 is when Shane, and if you're not familiar, in Texas, we have a grocery store chain. It's big called HEB. They compete with Walmart down here, but big retailer all across Texas. Anyway, Shane, 2008. Holy shit. Here we go.
So my wife and I decided this great idea that we're going to start a grocery delivery business. It was called Grocery to Me. And you can look it up. I get phone calls today saying, hey, do you deliver groceries? I'm like, I haven't delivered groceries for 10 years or so. Yeah. And it was kind of funny. But so yeah, we had things going. We even had so HEB stands for Henry Edward Butts, and that's this, senior. I ended up having conversations with Charlie Butts through a business strategist who had that conversation for me as my attorney, and had it all set up. Told him what we want to do. I wanted to be the exclusive grocery delivery company for HEB, and it was going forward. Everything looked great. I mean, he's like, this is fantastic. It's like, what a great idea. It's like, let's send it to legal and let's get this written up. That's fantastic. Well, unfortunately, I went to legal and they didn't like the liability of it. And of course, lawyers doing what they do, they crushed it. And that, in a sense, crushed our business for what our business plan was. And as everybody knows today, we were just too
yeah,
soon.
you got DoorDash, Uber Eats, all this shit, man, and it just exploded. But dude, friggin' 2008, and you even had buy-in from the guy, and then legal fucking crushed it, just like they crush fucking dreams all over the United States every friggin' day. Pieces of shit. Scared of their own shadow.
I know, right? They just don't want to get sued. You know, they're open up. They felt they were being opened up to too much liability. And reality is the system was fantastic because our like frozen stuff, we even tested it. We had styrofoam containers within a box for the cold and frozen stuff. Like if we had ice cream, we would put dry ice on top of the ice cream, and it would keep all the cold stuff cold and the frozen stuff frozen in a hot car in Texas.
Yeah.
For
amazing.
6 hours.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we tested it, and it's like it would last for 6 hours. But because if you weren't home, we would leave it wherever you asked us to leave it. Most people were home anyway, so it really wasn't an issue.
Dude, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
You would
anyway.
Anyway, that's that entrepreneurial mind of yours. So let's get into a little bit of the physical, the mental, and spiritual. Let's start with the physical, because you and I worked out when we were down at the seminar. You've got a certain way you're working out, a certain program you're following, and then I asked you some questions about what you're doing to get rid of the bad fat. What's that? The yellow fat? And there's
So there's
3 different
white fat.
ways.
There's white fat, which your body needs anyway, but then there's yellow fat, was where all your typically your obesity comes from. It's just storage of energy that's just not getting used, and of course, as soon as it forms, it's really hard to break it down.
Yeah.
So there's ways like doing ice baths to get rid of it. 99% of the people out there aren't willing to do that. Then there's and I don't want to take away from Vince. Basically, please, I want to give all the credit to V-Shred. Because it is phenomenal. He has all the research, he has all the background on it. I'm just following it, and it works very well. But yeah, basically, he goes into it much better than I ever could because he's done all the research. But basically, he does high intensity cardio.
Yeah.
Basically gets you into a state of 15 minutes of like really intense cardio, and that's all you need to do, and that keeps your fat burning for another 48 hours after you've even stopped. And then of course then the third way is using a supplement called black turmeric. I always knew that turmeric was a anti-inflammatory anyway, but I didn't realize that black turmeric had some agents within it that helps break down the yellow fat. And oh my goodness, does that stuff work? Because I've lost inches in 45 days, and it's pretty phenomenal.
Sweet, dude. Yeah, so I definitely want to. Is black turmeric something I could order from Amazon or
no? He basically special formulates it and so forth and sells it. And
so from
it's not cheap, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah,
buy it in bulk. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, if there's any links and stuff that you wanna give me that we can put down in the description for sure. But yeah, okay. So physical, and then what are you doing as far as working out goes? You're doing some HIIT work, right? But I also saw you doing like some ISO, holding positions and stuff like that when we were down in the hotel gym.
Yeah. So I work out from home a lot just because it's very convenient. The home workout routine through V-Shred is very good, and it'll work muscles that you didn't know you had. And it just the workouts aren't real long. I mean, really, some are 30 minutes long, some are 40 minutes long, but they're phenomenal, and you just feel great, except for on leg day. I hate leg day. I've suffered today from leg day from 2 days ago. But that's the only day I regret. But no, I work out every day. The only day I don't work out is I have it set so that way my rest day is on Sunday.
Yeah.
I work out every day, and all sorts of different exercises that you can do from home. And you don't need to even buy any special equipment. You can to bolster what you're doing with just basic light dumbbells or something. But no, everything you can do. But then there's also, if you don't want to work out at home and you enjoy going to the gym and so forth, because you have a better mindset there, there's also a gym routine you can also follow, and that works out very well as well. So
cool, sweet. All right, mentally. So how is Shane Eastman mentally tough? Now I know growing up you had some shit to overcome, but like, and then being in the theater that you were in over in the Middle East, that's some mental stuff to overcome. And like you said, I mean, even you know, we had gallows humor as police officers, just dealing. You had to try to break up the crap that you saw with some dark humor, just to try to make it light and to be able to deal with it. But and yeah, that stuff will affect you for years. But like now, you know, if you have a quote unquote shitty day or you're starting to get into a bad mood, what do you do to pull out of it?
Well, I mean, really just after this weekend, especially more tools being given to us through via, you know, meditation. Meditation, it sounds all woo-woo and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of crazy to hear men talking about, oh, well, you really should consider meditation. It is really, because success in life comes down to two things, and you know this better than anybody. You know, it comes down to mindset and your skill set. But without your mindset, your skill set is useless, because you could have all the reason why I'm not a doctor today, because I was encouraged by two different people, one of them being the medical director of the United States Air Force, trying to push me into becoming a doctor because I was so good at procedures. And, you know, reports kept coming back to him. He saw reports across his desk. He's like, you should be a doctor. You're so good at medicine. And, you know, my notes and everything were fantastic, but it's like, well, it's one thing to be good at something, but my mindset wasn't there.
Right.
I had all the tools in the world to do it, but I wasn't in the right mindset to be the doctor that one really needs to be.
Right.
And so that's a good example of, you know, hey, you know, you might have the tools, but if the mindset's not there, it's not any good. It doesn't do me any good, and it certainly doesn't do the patients any good. So my ethical decision was to not go that road. And
so you use meditation to get you in the right mindset to attack whatever your goals are.
I'm sorry, say that.
So you use meditation to get you in the right mindset to attack any of your goals, right?
Right. Especially if it's something that's, you know, you have that, everyone has that negative self-talk, whatever, the imposter syndrome or whatever. The best thing to do is to meditate. And of course, being a Christian, I pray, you know, and putting God and Jesus first for me really helps me know, you know, get through just about everything. And well, in fact, it does help me get through everything. It's just my own negative self-talk or whatever that knocks me down. But so between the two, it's just, and it's really one. If you really want to get metaphysical about it, it's really one. But it's just calming the conscious and getting your conscious mind out of your way and opening up your subconscious and giving that power to communicate with what really needs to happen in our universe. And so that's what kind of that's how I get my mental toughness and just strong goals, strong vision. I am a very strong vision guy. So that's what keeps me going. I just focus on the things that, you know, where I want to go, and for my family and the community and the things that I want to do in the world and my impact. And that's what helps me get through the tough times.
Yeah, and you spoke to the spiritual as well, which is great. But you also think it's awesome that you told me you're the head of security for your church, and I think every church needs to unfortunately think about having someone that is an SME, subject matter expert on security and being able to look at things and, you know, situational awareness. And because I mean, some of these kooks come into churches and do bad shit, you know. So
well, and Matt, it's more than even just the people that are coming to church to be malicious. You know, if you're a proper church, you invite everybody. You don't go to the hospital to see people that are healthy. You go to the hospital to see people that are sick.
Yeah.
Well, the church is supposed to be a place where people that are hurting, people that are dealing with, addictions and dealing with mental illness and all sorts of stuff and whatever. And sometimes messages might touch somebody in a way that brings up a bad memory, or they have some kind of a psychotic break or whatever. And security's job is not there to take someone down if they're coming in. It is, but it's a second echelon. It's there to protect people from themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one thing I love about my church is the fact that we, our motto is no perfect people allowed. And because, the pastor himself, he says, look, and he's one of the most transparent people that you see. I mean, he even tells us about how his own family life, sometimes there's some difficulties and so forth. And it basically talks about addictions for people and so forth, and all the things that happen in today the number one problem today really is mental illness. And forget coronavirus and all these other things that they keep coming up with, but mental illness is one of the bigger problems that we have going on today. And so really just so that's why I got into security, and I just basically ended up becoming the head of security. And
that's awesome, man, because you're coming at it from the right place. It's not looking for the troublemaker. It's coming from a place of love. How can I help these people? Because our doors are open for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then I love the fact that you said the second echelon. I think that's super huge. Dude, and Shane has an agency too, right? So if someone wanted to, let's talk about that real quick, and then I want to talk about that pilot story I wanted to get to, and we can close it out with that funny ass story. And then you pissing your wife off, and then you said, okay, well, the next weekend I'll do this. And anyway, that's a funny story. But let's talk about your agency. So if anyone out there has a business, or and you'll say it better than me, but I just kind of want to, if you wanted to be in some of the top searches for your business, give this man a call, and we're going to put all this stuff down in my description, but he can help make you seen and visual. So take it away, Shane.
Yeah, the number one thing when you have a business, you can have the best website in the world, but if it's obscure, obscurity is the worst curse that any company can ever have if they want traffic to their website. We have a saying, the best place to hide a body is on the second page of Google, because no one ever looks there. So you really want to be on the first page of Google, if not in the top 3, and you definitely want to be in the Google 3-pack, which is the local SEO. So certainly you want to work on that. We basically we have different programs and different packages depending on your company, and every company is different and their needs are different. Some people only need to reach 5 miles and be like the pivotal reach of 5 miles. Others need to be 30 miles. So depending on what it is that you need, we will help put together a package and program for you to excel and get you there within a period of 6 months, depending on how big, to a year, and get you into where you need to be.
Sweet, awesome, buddy. So you wanted to become a pilot, okay? And you're flying this plane. It's like the first plane, like the number on the plane was 0001. It's this, you had tested it. You take your wife, you fly, and anyway, tell that crazy story, and then that's how we'll kind of top this off.
Yeah, there's so it was a Cessna 182 turbo, and it was the first one of its class. And like you said, it was the VIN number was 0001. And so it had retractable landing gear, had adjustable prop, and it was a turbo. It was a high performance aircraft. So I got all these ratings out of this one aircraft. And I helped rebuild it with the aid of the mechanic and so forth. And in trade, I was able to take it for a long weekend at no cost. And but I got to work on it, and We had 10 hours on the airframe, tested it out. It was performing beautifully. It was flying like a brand new aircraft. It was phenomenal. And so awesome, perfect, just in time for Thanksgiving for me to fly from San Antonio up to Dallas area.
With your wife.
Grapevine Airport. And
yeah, with your wife, right?
Yeah, with my wife. So, and at the time she was studying for her boards for a nurse practitioner. And so, you know, she'd flown with me many times before. And so she's like, well, I'll just study while you're flying. And we take off from San Antonio and we're climbing through 10,000 feet. And I think we're just about over Austin and we're crossing into 13,000 feet. And we hear this, "Pah!" And so I'm checking my gauges, looking at everything. You know, oil pressures in the green, manifold pressures in the green, RPMs are maintaining, you know, speed is maintaining, everything is solid. The aircraft is flying great. I'm like, okay, great, everything's good. And then I look over at my wife and she's like looking at me with the deer in the headlights look. And she's like, what was that? I go, I don't know. And she's like, are you not concerned? I go, nope. And she's like, all right, if he's not concerned, I'm not concerned. So she went back to studying. And I guess the whole time she was thinking, she goes, I can't believe he's not concerned.
Yeah, right. You're looking at all your stuff going, yeah, everything's good.
Everything's good. The aircraft is performing beautifully. I mean, so we're cruising along and it was cool because I was actually seeing airliners fly under me. Oh, wow. So looking at the top of, you know, American Airlines and, you know, Southwest and United fly under me as I'm flying up to Dallas, and it was cool. And so we get up there, we land, and we meet our buddies up there, and we're unloading the aircraft. And as we're unloading the aircraft, we get to the groceries. It's like, oh, found the source of the loud pop. It was a bag of potato chips that popped open.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, crazy. I can't believe it. And I ran down the list with her and I said, you know, all these things were good. And they go, and besides, the number one reason why I wasn't concerned, I go, the noise was behind us, not in front of us.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
So this is Thanksgiving weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, Thanksgiving weekend. Yep.
And then when it was time to fly out, what happened?
Oh, well, yeah. So let's talk about flying out. So she had to work on Sunday. No, I take that back. She had to work on Saturday. So we flew up on Wednesday, and the idea was we were going to fly back on Friday. And correction. It was Thursday that she had to fly back because she had to work Friday morning.
Okay.
So we were playing cards, and my buddy said, you know, he's like, let's play one more round. And I'm like, looking at the weather, I'm like, yeah, we should be all right. So, because I knew a front was coming in. And so a front comes in, and after we played another round of cards, I'm like, yeah, about taking off right now. Can't take off because the V, you know, would be against the, you know, our clearances. I have to be able to have visual flight reference because I was a VFR pilot at the time.
Which meant you couldn't take off in fog or bad weather because you weren't instrument rated, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we had to run around on Thanksgiving Day to find a rental car so my wife could drive back to San Antonio in a rental car. Just so she could go to work on Friday. She was not happy.
Yeah. Right. So what did you do the next weekend, or how soon did you get your instrument rating after that?
I basically started the process that the following week. And I think my class started in January and so forth. But she's like, I'm never flying anywhere with you again, long distance, unless you have your IFR. I'm like, done.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
well, brother, man, dude, that is fantastic. Had a great time. Shane and I were roomies, and I'll just tell a funny story. So, like, we get on some of these Zoom calls, meeting calls with our group, our entrepreneurial group, and I'd seen Shane on video, but I'd never seen him in person. And when I recognized Shane, of course, we had to have our masks on and stuff. But this is just kind of weird, and I'm just going to share a weird story. But I saw Shane from the backside, and that's how I recognized him. I go, I bet that's Shane, and he was a lot taller than I thought he was. But hey, I never knew what his backside looked like, but I did recognize him. I don't know why, but great friend. Send me all your stuff, buddy. We're going to get it down in the description. And yeah, man, I appreciate your time, dude. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time, bud. Love catching up with you for sure.
Absolutely, man. We'll catch up soon. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for being on the Nice Path podcast, brother.
Thanks.
All right.